Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Dear friends, it's really nice to be with all of you today. Thank you, Ajahn, for inviting me to the retreat day. My name is Venerable Shim Bo, and I serve as abbot and spiritual director of White Lotus Haven Zen of Connecticut, and we're located about 1 hour north from here in Collinsville, Connecticut. And White Lotus Haven Zen of Connecticut is part of the Blue Dragon Zen order, which has 4 lineage masters in it from the Mahayana tradition. Those lineage masters are Ilbun Sokyo from the Korean tradition. Master Sung San Sunim is very popular from the Korean tradition. Thich Thien An from the Vietnamese tradition. And Taizan Meizumi Roshi from the Japanese tradition. So these are our teachers in the line that we practice in. And I've been serving as abbot there for the past 6 years. We will turn 7 in November. In addition to serving as abbot there, I serve as chaplain at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield. And also, I'm a spiritual leader in the Buddhist tradition at Trinity College. And I also work with prisoners through our correspondence course run by the Buddhist Association of the United States, which you may be familiar with. Bhikkhu Bodhi is a part of that, or was part of that. So I tell you these things just by way of introduction and to provide some context. And what I would like to share with you is that, because of my travels, I've been doing spiritual direction work, counseling work with people for the past 23 years in a number of settings, people from all kinds of different traditions and occupations and family settings and the like. And it's quite interesting in America, because in America there is a very strong kind of focus on individualism and almost an attachment to identity. And I have found over the years that people come to Buddhist practice because the things in their life that used to provide insight for them or some kind of consolation don't anymore. Things outside of themselves don't provide a sense of reality in some way. And many people, they see images of the Buddha, very peaceful statues, and are drawn to them. And they first come thinking that, they will sit in meditation for an hour and then maybe be enlightened very quickly. And obviously, this is not the case, but because of our culture is so transactional, if I give you money, I should get something back. We are, in America, kind of conditioned in this way. And so much of my teaching, and I spend a lot of time with individuals at our sangha, we have a 1-year program where in our tradition, in Rinzai Zen tradition, we have what is called Dokcham. And Dokcham is a one-on-one meeting with the teacher and the student to kind of unpack and unfold their experience. This is very, very helpful. In Zen, we learned that Buddhism really comes to the point of direct experience. Direct experience, one direct experience. I could write a sutra on an orange, what it looks like, perhaps what it tastes like, what it feels like. You can read that orange sutra, but if I actually gave you the fruit, put it in your hand, then you would really know it. And so Zen Buddhism is really about direct experience with your mind. And so that's what our students come to understand. And we teach Buddhism through the fundamental teachings of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. We had a question about hindrances today, which is tucked into the Eightfold Path, the hindrances teaching. So the question that we're left with through all of the study and all of the reading and all of the even teaching and explanation is, now what do I do with this stuff? Because our lives are complicated, right? Lives are very complicated. Retreats are great because they're a time for us to come away and remember through nature, the simplicity of nature, walking outside, looking at a tree, feeling the grass on our feet, reminding us that we're part of nature. And really, everything's okay in that way. And the retreat experience invites us to remember, sati, recollection. Remember the truth. I think one of the Venerables said that you are already Buddha, right? In Mahayana tradition, this is the teaching, that all beings are already Buddha. And that we, because we are human, we just kind of overlay too much thinking onto that truth and forget. So this retreat experience is really great to remember. We also have retreat experiences at our temple. We have weekend retreats too. And it's nice. And then later, after the retreat is over, maybe like during the week, my students will come to me and they'll say, why can't every day be like retreat day, And we have to remind ourselves, right, that the retreat comes with us. We don't leave it here. We come to the retreat center to practice meditation, to listen to the Dhamma, to practice the Dhamma, to remember in our body, not just in an intellectual way, but in a whole embodied way. What peace really feels like, to have to do nothing really, and to be no one for anyone. And then we get in the car and we start, okay, what bill do I have to pay? Who do I have to call? Right? All of this. And that's okay too. But in that drive home, we can remember, our body can remember the breath. Slowing down, the walking. Your life, my life outside of here is also retreat. It can be. But what's needed is a change of mind. Not separating one environment from another environment in our minds. I always say we take the cushion with us, no matter where we go. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the 5 hindrances because I think Bhante talked about that before and gave an excellent explanation. I call them the 5 wonderful hindrances. Why are they wonderful? Because without the suffering, we can't wake up. Right? Baseball season is now, and maybe some of you follow baseball. In baseball, the batter gets up to bat, waits for the ball, right? Baseball is an interesting sport because if you really think about it, if you have a 300 batting average in baseball, you hit 3 pitches out of 10. And that's really good in baseball to have a 300 batting average. You're hitting less than half of the pitches thrown to you. Our practice is like that too. It's not about hitting home runs. It's about getting the chance to get up at bat, you see? So when a hindrance comes, we have to be alert and be in the batter's box. Does that make sense? We get a chance to get another try, another at-bat. And that's why it's so wonderful. Sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse, and skepticism and doubt. I think we know, each one of us, when we're having these feelings, don't we? Isn't it wonderful that we can be in the batter's box and take a deep breath and identify the feeling with mindfulness of feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, and just kind of practice with that in the moment? That's why these things are wonderful, because they're doorways into freedom, actually. The better that we, and the more often that we engage our suffering in this way, the more skillful we'll be. And the less we will be surprised or taken off guard when these hindrances arise. That's one thing. Another thing I wanted to share with you is that in the university life, I see many, many students who are anxious. And it seems as though anxiety is one of the greatest difficulties of modern life. And maybe you know it yourselves. Fear and anxiety have a way of gripping the mind and keeping you hostage. And many of these anxieties come, at least for the kids, for the university students, actually in not having what I call grit. Do you know that word? Not knowing how to suffer because their lives have been taken care of for them. And so my role at the university is to ease them into a responsibility for them to take care of their own mind and suffering. And that's what we are all doing with our practice. To engage life and all its difficulty and its joys, we can become attached to, right? Part of the Eightfold Path that is really important to me is Satipatthana Sutra. The contemplations on the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. In the section on the contemplations of the body, we have many different things that we can explore there. But the one thing that's kind of missing for me in today's modern culture is the nervous system. The nervous system is that energetic piece in us, right, that gets us into fight or flight response in the body and starts cortisol flowing through. It's physiological. And so part of what I think the Buddha Dharma helps us to do without explicitly saying it in the sutras necessarily, is to calm down the nervous system in a way that the chemistry of the body doesn't activate and send us into a stress mode, constricting vessels in our body and making us feel unsettled and afraid and anxious. So how do we practice in Buddhism? It's got to be practical. It's got to be applied. Doesn't it make sense? How do we apply Buddhism in 2025? In our school of Zen Buddhism, we say only right now, only just this moment. And one of the Bhantes talked about present moment before. How do we find freedom in our practice? Stay here. I say that a lot. Yeah, but this person's going to think this in the future. Stay here. Yeah, but this is what happened before. Stay here. Take a deep breath. Relax. It's okay. So how do you practice moment to moment with your mind, with your experience? Lately, I've been not using the word mind, but rather the word experience. Because your experience includes your whole body and all of the people and the things and the sensations that you experience during the day. Everything that you come into contact with is mind. And mind isn't something that you possess or own. If you think about it in our teaching, at least in Mahayana tradition, we have the reality of shunyata. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's also called emptiness. And emptiness teaching, shunyata teaching, is that all the things that feel concrete and substantial are in fact not. That the thing that we call myself is just a process. There's nothing we can grab there. If you really inspect your experience, there's nothing there to grab hold of. And the moment that we start to grab hold of some idea of our lives, it's just then that it starts to fall apart in our hands. Like a little kid making a sandcastle at the beach. Very, very excited, Works all morning under the sun, making a sandcastle. And then, of course, the tide is coming. The tide is coming. And it's eroding from the bottom out. That's what we do. We build sandcastles and think that they're concrete. And then they fall apart. And then we're disappointed. Don't we do that? And then we say, all right, well, I'm going to build a wall around my sandcastle then, so the water doesn't get to it. Of course, the wall falls apart too. It's because we don't know the nature of the tide. We don't know the nature of sand. We don't know the nature of reality. That's why we're disappointed all the time. We cannot accept the nature of things as in process, as in flux. We live in expectations of things, in concepts of things. And I think the Buddha is inviting us into flowing, living in the flow of the reality of things as they are. And the way to do that is to let go of the sense of I am. this clinging to I am something, you know. Where is this I am? Where is it? Give it to me. Put it in my hand. Where is it? This past week, I had there was an unfortunate death that occurred of a 15-year-old boy, one of the professors at the university, and I went to the wake. And it was very strange to see a little boy in a suit in a coffin. Very sad. And it just made me think, you know, life is precious and brief. We don't have a lot of time, and we never know what will happen. And so the time to wake up is now, right now. So whatever you may be holding, or myself, we can put it down. We can put it down. And experiment and explore with that and see what that feels like. So I wish you a really good retreat. Thank you for listening.
We still have 5 more minutes. If you have some comment or some questions, please make your comment or ask question. The Venerable will be with us only in this afternoon. And after this, he will leave. So it's a good chance. Yes, please.
Okay.
So since you said, we let everything go with the flow, but when we let the religion, we set the what we're gonna do. Is that mean we have to leave all the good and desire and go with the flow? I'm not sure.
We have to leave desire and go with the flow.
Yeah, you mentioned like we have to know the nature of the sin. We shouldn't expect anything.
Right.
So that means it's that when we focus on something, that means we shouldn't set the goal or anything that we expect to get. So just do whatever is good for you and just go with the flow.
No, not really that way. Yeah, it's a good question.
Explain more of that.
Sure. Sometimes I think we make expectations of how things should go. And we get stuck in clinging to expectations and ideas of how things should go, rather than flowing with the nature of how things are. Does that make sense?
But we still can set the expectation.
There are expectations that are reasonable expectations or wholesome expectations. And then there are ones that are not so wholesome. So there is contemplation that has to be had. We have to think about expectations and what kind we set. But also not clinging to them, because those expectations can be broken. We can be disappointed, right? So it's also not clinging to them. And desire, I wanted to say something about desire. I think desire gets a bad rap. I think there's a wholesome desire. I mean, you desired to come here today, right? And that's okay. But when desire becomes a clinging thing, I mean, if you had somebody who was sick and you couldn't come here and you would have to stay with them, then that's what you have to do. So not clinging to desire, is what I think the difference is. I hope that helps.
Yes.
Okay.